All right, this loom happens to be a wolf pup. The measurements between the back, the castle, front and the castle are the same as a baby wolf. This one's a low castle. So I'm going to show you one way that you can thread, and this one is back to front on this particular loom. First thing I had to decide was, where am I going to hang the warping helpers? And as you can see over here, this is where I decided to hang them, and there are different snaps. So I hung them, I want my lease sticks to be just about here. A little loose so they move back and forth. The snaps are already undone, ready for the lease stick. I happen to have my rattle on. And the other thing I like to do is put I like to use metal, rod of some kind that doesn't have a lot of loops in it. Because what I'm going to do is I'm going to loop this over the edge, take this off and loop it, and I don't have to tie. Again, this just happens to be my method of doing it. I want you to notice that you can have different thicknesses of lease sticks. So either one of these will work. Just make sure whatever you have is stiff. If you have a very wide loom and you use a flexible piece of wood, it's not going to be as successful. I'm going to show you kind of a close-up. This goes through the end, goes through the grommet, and then you snap it. And we'll do the same thing on the other side, but I'm going to do that on the loom in a moment. So let me take this out. And I'm going to hang the other one on the loom. So again, this time, low castle. Bring it to there. Now I'm going to take the other end. Got to make sure I don't catch all these rods on here. And I'm going to do this all the way there. You can also obviously snap it the other direction. It's just nice to have it all the same way. All right, so now I'm ready to insert the first lease stick. Doesn't matter which one you do first. I'm going to put it in here. Take that. Do the same thing on the other side. Snap it. Then the other one, going through the cross, the warp that you made. This happens to be some hand spun yarn, so it's a very short warp. It's for one scarf. Snap that in there. Okay, now the next thing that I do is I've had this tied. So what I often do is I will take off the one end, maybe just hang it here so it doesn't go too far away. Slide this into the end, and then, this is a tricky part, at least making the loop for myself, all by myself there. There we go. So now I have that fairly secure. Roll this around so there we go. All right, so now the cross is secure in the lease sticks. The other end of the warp is looped in to that particular location. And the next thing that we will do is take all these ties out, and I do tie them very tight because I certainly don't want all that yarn to disappear on me. Now in this case, I happen to, I had to tie one on the end, so to speak. So I have a little one that kind of got away from me there. You can see what happens on that. I am going to, again, take this off, put this back on, do the same thing again. Rather than just looping it over, I like to do that little extra. There we go. All right, so now that's all on there. Then I can also untie the cross. spread it out. Like that. And the next step will be to evenly spread out the warp on the rattle. These happen to be inch increments on there. And one thing that I do to help me, pretty far away as you can see, I've grouped these into inches. So it'll allow me to take each section at a time. For example, this one, spread it out, and then I will be able to bring that over. Now this is, I believe, 10 inches. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So I would put that one in that section there, and I'm going to rest it up here for a moment because I'm on the wrong side of the loom. I need to get on the side to release the brake. So let me get over here, or tighten the brake. So again, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And what I'm going to do is tighten up the back. There we go. Because I want it to be hanging over a little bit as I go through each one. So I had the first section, and then I would go on to the next one and spread that one over, all the way over there. And then I'm going to continue. I'm going to pause for a moment, and then we're going to, next time you're going to see, they're all going to be on there, and we will start winding the warp on. So now all of the threads are all spread out evenly, and you can see I still have the sections tied in inches. Now it's time to take those out. And now it's time to wind the warp on. So this, I like the idea that it slides a little bit, gives me a little power. Now this is a short one. I'm going to just hold on to it a little bit as I start to wind it on. Bring this back. Make sure the paper's in there. Bring it around, having that coil wrap around a little bit more. And it's always interesting when you have hand spun, because sometimes it wants to do certain things, and this can be tricky at times. Wrapping it around, making sure the paper's tight. Again, coming back and continuing. Don't have much more to go. This is about a 2.5 yard warp. And sometimes you might want to come back and do a little shaking if you need to. And it looks like I'm going to need to add some more paper. So I'm going to keep it there so you have an idea. And of course, when you get to the end, then you're going to thread your heddles. I happen to lay the reed flat here with some sticks across and thread it that way. I'll show you that a little bit later on. So that's the theory behind using the warping helpers for a low castle loom. So the next step, it's all wound on, and now it's time to thread the heddles. So I can take small groups. I like to hold them underneath the shafts. That's just my preference. And then to try to help me, sometimes I will go across and go, and maybe 2 at a time in this case. One way to try to help me prevent me from making threading errors, doesn't always work, but hey, we always want to try things. So right now I'm going to go 4, 3, 2, 1. I'm going to peel the first one off. I happen to use fold it in half, pull it through, 4. And sometimes I actually count out loud. 4, 3, 2, and 1. Now when I did wind this warp, I did 2 at a time. So I will again go 4. It's also, I'm doing it in 8 ends per inch is what this is set at. So when I'm done, I kind of have a mark of progress, how many inches I've done. And then we go to 1. Now I prefer the larger eye Heddles when I'm doing hand spun, but I don't have that many for this particular loom, so I'm using what I have. Then I just do a little loop like that, and then I'll continue on. So the next phase, you will see all of the Heddles will be threaded, and the next one will be going on to the reed. I forgot to say when I was threading the Heddles, I have an option of raising all the shafts up higher so I can see, which I often do. I didn't do in the last case. And sometimes I'll sit on a lower chair. So that's what I was doing. Now I'm actually sitting on the bench that I used for weaving, and you can see I have some of my longer lease sticks from another loom across. This is the center of this particular reed, and it is about a 12-inch warp that I put on. And I find this a little bit easier. I bring the hook through and come down. Now I happen to like the brass hooks. We all have our preferences for what we like to use. And go down. At the same time, I'm also checking my threading. So I see it's 4, 3, 2, 1, and I'm looking again, 4, 3, 2, 1. I'm like, okay, good. Because it's nice if you can catch the threading errors now rather than after you've already tied everything on. And then what I like to do is I will take my group, again do an overhand knot, and then I will continue on until I get to the end. Then I will take the reed and bring the beater up, put it in the beater, and put the top back on, and we're ready to weave. Again, that's the way that I like to do it. Whoops, I forgot which direction I was going. You could also do it in the reed if you want to. I look for as much comfort as I can when I'm weaving. I thought you might like to see what I decided to use to weave with. This was the hand spun warp, a merino that was plied, and I found on my shelf I had some commercial bamboo 5/2, and I think it looks really nice, adds a little sparkle to it. So now you get to see what the project will look like when it's finished. You can also use the warping helpers front to back. So I'm setting up a demonstration. I'm not going to actually finish the process, but I'd like to show you how you can do it. It works best if you have a loom with a high castle, like this baby wolf with a high castle. If you don't have a high castle, you might need to figure out a different way at least to thread the reed. This is how I used to do it when I first got the warping helpers. So if you look across, you can see I've already connected the warping helpers here. I snapped in the lease sticks on that side. I slid them into the cross, and then what I used to do was I would take the snap and I would snap it into the one side, and then I would take the other stick and I would snap it in, and I would have them hanging from the loom. Then I would untie that, which I'm not going to do right now. I would spread it out, and then I could take each thread. This would also be cut, and again, I'm not going to cut that because I like to do the back to front. I would cut each thread, and then I would take my hook and I would thread the reed, find the place, and pull everything through on the reed. So that's what I would do. Then I would flip the whole thing over. You would have to take your chain warp and flip it back over, and you would end up putting all of this over, putting it into your beater, and then going to the other side to thread your heddles next. So what you would have done in the last segment was to flip your reed in, put it in, and again, all of these would be through the reed if you were doing it front to back and across, but again, I don't do that normally, so I don't want to cut all these threads right now. I'm going to show you that in a minute. And the other thing, some people literally wrap this around twice if you want it up higher. If you want it looser, you can obviously unhook it and have it a little looser. But what happens is your lease sticks can hang here, or again, like I said, if you want them to hang a little lower for a little bit more flexibility, you can also hang them on a different snap and have everything lower and do both things at the same time. So if you can imagine, all of your threads would be through the reed, and then, like I said, you would go to the other side and you would thread the heddles. So you can do it front to back if you prefer to do that type of threading of your loom. Now I'm going to go, the next segment is going to be back to front using this particular loom, similar to the other one, but this one has a high castle. And here is looking at the back to front, the rattles on. I already have the one side attached, lease sticks through, like I did in the previous ones. Would attach the one here, snap it in, and you can do it the other direction too. It doesn't really matter which direction that you want to do it. You can have the snaps the other direction, up or down. I like to push them in that way. And as you can see, again, this is a baby wolf, so there's some adjustments. So if you have a larger loom, you could also go down farther on this side. And the other side also has another snap. So if you have a loom that's wider, you can do it that way. And then again, what I would normally do is take this particular rod out, slip my warp in there. Then I again, not sure if this is showing up on the video since I can't really see it right now. I do a little loop over, put that through. Well, maybe I will. You know, when you're doing a demonstration, sometimes things work, sometimes they don't. And then you bring everything back to the center, and it's very similar to the other loom the smaller loom. I would spread everything out and then start sectioning. I have, again, it all counted in groups of the inches that are the span of the rattle that I have, wind it all the way on from the other side. And what I found, the lease sticks are enough weight that I don't have any other weight. By looping it on, there's less waste from tying it onto the back beam, or to the, tying it onto the back rod. So anyway, that's another way. I've also used this on my spring loom, on my delta loom, and I have a Toika loom. I did need the extensions for the Toika loom, but the other two looms, and I'm going to try to set up at least an example. But you have to look at your loom and decide where is the best place to attach your warping helpers. And I'm going to show you one more thing, I believe, if I can do this, that a customer showed me that she did with hers. So one of my customers has a baby wolf, and she was able to snap her device onto the front and also to the back. Now she had them on the inside. What I've discovered, if I had longer lease sticks, if you used longer ones, just a little bit longer, you could go onto the outside. So if you have a wider warp. But she did that because she liked the idea that is tightened both ways. If you did have a longer loom, a wider loom, bigger, you could do the same thing. In that case, you would need the extensions that we also sell that go along with that. So I just wanted to show you one thing, again, what the customer did from the one end, and she went all the way through to the other end. So that's another option. Okay, I can show you now. This is my delta loom. I'm obviously already have a warp on, but I'm showing you where I hang the warping helpers. Now the sticks, the lease sticks I'm using are a little shorter, so you can use shorter lease sticks if you want. And if you come over the one side, you can see how that's connected. And then we go to the other side. See if I can, you also get a little view of my studio. Now sometimes if you have a loom, you can hang it up here. There are times that I have taken these and I've hung them a little bit lower. Maybe I wanted it to hang in a different location, and I can put it here because it stops here. Again, you have to evaluate your loom and try to figure out where's the best location. I also found if I use the extension, I could do what I did on the baby wolf and have this particular, oh, if I can go around that spring there, is it? I could have it actually going all the way from the front to the back if I wanted to. And again, remember, you can wrap your warping helpers around twice if you need to make them more secure, whatever works for you. Again, I just wanted to show you that it can be done on a larger loom. I've also used it, like I said, on my spring loom as well as my Toika loom. So there's a lot of different options. It's just another way of being neat and tidy as a weaver. But we all find what works for us. Just wanted to show you something that I discovered that works for me. If you'd like to try them out, please do. If you already have a way that works for you, I'm very glad you found a way. Whatever works that makes life easier as a weaver.